The Little Village Youth Safety Network is a collective impact effort that focuses on reducing violence, perpetration, and victimization in the community.
It's been able to help hold together a network of individuals and organizations who are doing really broad and deep and complementing work.
We work together to ensure that we're building neighborhood capacity to the best way possible, and we're communicating with each other to do that. In the network, we have organizations that do youth leadership, that support parents, so parenting groups that provide mental health, and provide space-based activities that support creating safe spaces, but then also helping engage families and creating more of a stronger community.
We've seen a lot of progress through Little Village Youth Safety Network. We've seen a lot of positive steps.
Well, a key part of the collective impact work that we do is ensuring that we're working together towards a shared goal, that we're tracking measures, that we're leveraging each other's strengths and resources.
And so Little Village Youth Safety Network has been huge for us in being a space to come with ideas, to share best practices, to learn and grow together.
We moved here to Little Village about almost 20 years ago. We noticed not a lot of kids being active outdoors, especially in like public play spaces. And with Little Village having the least amount of green space per capita in all of the city of Chicago, being the youngest and densest community in the city of Chicago, that's a real issue, because when you don't have kids playing outside, that means they're growing up afraid. And that kind of feeds into this whole idea of gangs, right? Needing protection, needing to feel like you're not going to be a victim.
Initially, the model focused on 5th through 8th grade youth, because the literature shows that this is a population that's kind of like in that place in their development where, you know, they could become victims and perpetrators of violence.
One of our first youth who was in our program, he was killed in 2011. And so during that time, that was the first funeral I ever did as a pastor, buried him, and his younger siblings started saying, how do I get on probation so I can have a mentor? And we started realizing that the system's set up a lot where resources are only given after the problem is too far gone. And so what we tried to do and started to do through the Little Village Youth Safety Network is how do we go a little bit further up the river, so to speak, and provide services for these kids before they kind of join and get into the lifestyle.
The idea of, little kid, little problem, big kid, big problem, and being able to, as a community, intervene much more strategically and earlier in that process.
When you connect with them at a younger age, you then get the parents. They come naturally, because an 11-year-old still, it's right. I have an 11-year-old daughter, and they still think you're cool, but they're about to not think you're cool. And so when you come around, parents are still involved, they're active, so you connect with the parents and you provide wraparound services for them. And so it's almost like if you can catch them at that younger age, hopefully we can shut down our intervention programs because we won't need them.
I've never met any people, even if they were gang involved, want that same lifestyle for their children. It's just not natural. People want better for their children. And I think that, people recognize that, we're not here because we want to incarcerate everybody, or we want to, it's like what we want to do is we want to find a solution for our children to be able to play and grow in peace.
So how do we stop the next shooting? How do we create prevention pathways and ways to really wrap around these families? So again, this can stop, and I'm proud to say we've seen success. We've seen the numbers dropping. We've seen more youth really stepping away from the lifestyle, but we still have a lot of work to do.
The neighborhood's still the neighborhood, right? There's still the gang graffiti everywhere. You still have, all of these like negative things around you. And so the idea, right, is how can we help the neighborhood feel different and challenges people's perceptions of the community.
What makes Little Village as a community very different from other communities, I believe, is that we're very collaborative. We work together both as organizations, but then even just people living in this space. And I think there's long-term investment and belief in changing the narrative of perceptions of the neighborhood and community.
The younger kids' perspective on our neighborhood, we're trying to change that story. How do you say, when the news says that Little Village is this place of violence and poverty and all these things, our kids don't feel it. Our kids love the neighborhood. They get to 5 days a week have amazing programming, whether it's sports, whether it's arts, whether it's after school camps and clubs. And so when you start to change the narrative of a place, you can really start to change the culture of a place. And so instead of seeing Little Village as a place to escape, how do we make Little Village a place that we can be and thrive?